Okay, morning, y'all. Let's see. Here we go. Trump came out with this announcement last night, and just as we were beginning our opening hours of the holiday of Yud Tet Kislev, today is actually a Jewish holiday. I don't know if everybody knows that, but it's worth knowing because there's like these events that happen, right? These external political events, and I just love it when the external realm lines up with the internal realm of the spiritual politics of the world. And so we actually have Trump's announcement sort of like so beautifully dovetailing in with a Jewish holiday that's occurring right now. So just want to say a word about that and how I think it can really guide us into how to work with this and how to process through what's coming down. So there's a holiday right now. It's going on. It's called Yud Tet Kislev. It's a Chabad holiday. And Chabad is obviously like a particular brand of Judaism, sect side of Judaism that's about Hasidut. It's sort of about a more spiritual orientation to Jewish wisdom. And Yud Tet Kislev is celebrated. It's called the Rosh Hashanah of Hasidut, the new year of this particular way of Jewish learning and engagement. That's a very mystically oriented one. And this is called the new year for Hasidut. So what does that have to do with Jerusalem and the embassy and all that's going on today? So here's the deal. So the backdrop is Yud Tet Kislev is a celebration of the day back in 1798 when the founder of Chabad Hasidus, Rabbi Shneur Zalman Meliadi, was let out of prison. Okay, so back in the day, and actually it's still pretty bad in Russia, if you tried to teach Torah, teach Jewish wisdom, like they could just kill you basically, or put you in prison, an intense time to be alive. So he was imprisoned for teaching Jewish wisdom, let's say. And on this day was a day that, lo and behold, he was released. Mazel tov. Cool. This becomes not just a historic event, but it's understood by the followers of Chabad as really symbolic of a place where that which was once and previously concealed and imprisoned being finally released. So it's about the release of these lights. It's about the release of this particular approach to Torah learning that's now coming out into the world. Okay, so what does that have to do with today? Well, obviously and beautifully, if we look at Jerusalem, there's this idea now of, wow, Jerusalem is the capital. Jerusalem should be the capital of Israel. Well, that's pretty obvious to us, but that idea, let's say, has been imprisoned by world opinion, negative, insane world opinion that says, no, you're not allowed to think that, you're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to act politically and acknowledge that Jerusalem is the capital of the state of Israel, and the state of Israel is a Jewish homeland, a democratic one, but a Jewish homeland nonetheless. So there's this idea that's sort of been shackled by negative world opinion that says, no, actually, let's just say it out loud. Jerusalem is the capital, Mazel Tov, and let that truth reign and shine. So that's the opportunity that we have here is like, yeah, let's let it free. Let's let this idea finally just have the light of day that yes, all the embassies should be in Jerusalem. Nothing, and our enemies are saying this is like opening up the gates of hell and, well, the gates of hell, like, apparently were opened up so long ago anyway, according to our enemies. As my friend said, well, didn't the gates of hell open up when you burnt your toast or, that other time you got mad at the Jewish people for doing X, Y, and Z? We've heard this before. We've heard the calls to violence before. God knows I sent my children off on Jerusalem school bus today with a prayer in my heart. It's intense to hear these threats. But we stand firm. We stand firm in like declaring, yes, this is the truth. This is the truth. Jerusalem should be the homeland, should be the capital. So let's talk about the deeper kind of teachings about Yud Tet Kislev. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Mendel, has a beautiful sikha, a beautiful teaching on Parshat Korach. And Parshat Korach is where we learn about, Korach is this Hebrew who had a really hard time with the fact that Aaron was chosen to be the leader and the priest of the Jewish people. Him and his followers get all upset about it and kind of want to start a little fight, protesting that Aaron was chosen as the leader. And they say, no, we're all holy here. Why should Aaron get to be the one? And a whole fight ensues. And in the end, one of the main symbols that comes out of it is where Moses says, listen, everybody from every tribe, each tribe brings forward a staff from their tribe. And each staff bring forward each one from your tribe. And in the morning, we'll see who God has appointed to be the leader. And in the morning, sure enough, behold, Aaron's staff has blossomed and has turned into this little mini almond tree that has a flower, it has a bud, and it has an actual almond fruit upon it. It's blossomed as a symbol that, yes, Aaron's the one. Now, actually, it's taught that this staff and these three little, the bud and the flower and the fruit actually still exists today. It's understood to be this eternal symbol that maybe is in like the bowels of the Vatican somewhere, who knows? And it still exists today. So why the 3 steps, asks the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Why doesn't it just have an almond? Wouldn't it just be enough to just go ahead and get to the fruit already? Why does it need to be that eternally memorialized is the blossom and the flower and the fruit? Why the 3 steps? And the Rebbe talks about this as representative of the path of process, the path of miracles in the world, the God's favorite path of manifesting miracles in the world happens in stages. It's a process. I love it that the Middle East conflict is often called the peace process because yes, actually that's true. Peace is a process and it's taking some time to get there, but that's the goal and that's our goal. That's the Jewish goal, is to really get to a place of true peace. And it is a process it's taking some time. And there's developments along the way. And I think that right now what we're celebrating with this announcement of the embassy is we're celebrating part of that process coming into manifestation. Let's say we're celebrating the blossom of this ideal that we're moving towards. Tov. So let's go back to Korach. So the Rebbe says, he actually brings a really amazing story. He talks about the imprisonment of his father-in-law, the previous Rebbe of Chabad, just like the original founder of Chabad, Reb Shneur Zalman, was imprisoned and then released. So too, a couple hundred years later, in the 1700s, in the 1900s, in 1927, the previous Rebbe was also freed from imprisonment. And so he talk about the imprisonment of the previous Rebbe. So actually, it wasn't just imprisonment. The first ruling was that the Tsarist Russia said that he should be killed. That he should be killed for teaching Torah, for living Jewishly and spreading words of Torah in the world. He should be killed. So it went from a death sentence to then they changed it into an imprisonment, was the next stage. And then final stage was they released him. Okay, so we see the parallel, the 3-step process that the previous Rebbe went under of death sentence, moving to imprisonment, moving to freedom. And he makes this parallel and says, God could have stepped in at any point and God's pretty great. God could have just swept in and freed the previous Rebbe from his Russian prison. But that is not the way God likes to work. God likes to work according to a process. God likes to work according to actually a naturally occurring, the physical process. God really particularly likes to work according to the grimiest process of government and politics. And this ruling coming through Tsarist Russia, the grime of that entity of Tsarist Russia with all of its physicality and corruption and the darkness of that, bringing God into that process and working out the most physical details of that is the way that God likes to make his miracles happen, is through the grimiest possible vessel. So it had to come through Tsarist Russia and the decisions of the court. God didn't just want to step in and make a miraculous freedom. God wants us to be a part of it. God wants human involvement to be a part of it, because that's the place where the divine really gets to penetrate all the way to the deepest, darkest depths of the physical That's the whole point of creation, is it the full-on spiritualization of the physical and the physicalization of the spiritual. This is the goal. This is the Jewish understanding of the goal of all of creation. So it makes sense that God's like, I'm not just going to step in. I want it to come through Tsarist Russia's regime. I want the regime itself to become the expression of godliness in the world and create this release and this freedom. And we can look at it also today. God saying, I don't want to just give the Jewish people shouldn't just get back all that, take over Temple Mount and all that, just like in a miraculous split millisecond. That could happen that way, but that's not the ideal way. The ideal way is it comes through all of the trappings of the physical and politics and world opinion and CNN and the BBC. All of this is the point, is it actually goes through all these channels and transforms all these channels and comes to the deepest, darkest place of Trump pronouncing and announcing this bright new statement. That's the point, is it comes through the darkest of places. That's the goal. And that happens in a process. And for me, it's very, people sometimes ask me, like, what's your greatest regret in life? And always the first thing that comes to my mind about like what I'm most regretful, it's so funny. It's not like anything so personal. It's really like, I think of 1967 when we had this amazing 6-day war and the Jewish people legitimately won back Israel and all of Jerusalem and Temple Mount. We won it back in full-on legitimate manner. And then what did we do? We said, oh, here, have the keys back to Temple Mount. We gave it back to our Muslim cousins. A sweet gesture, but like one that sort of rips my heart into two, because it could have avoided so much of the conflict that has come since then. And here, it's a process. I think that's the point. That's the comfort that I'm getting right now from this idea of this pronouncement coming at the same time as Yud Tet Kislev, is that there has been an imprisonment. The idea that Jerusalem is our capital has been imprisoned, and it's been darkened. But through that imprisonment, it's finally coming out and being released into the world. And the Jewish people are stepping up and saying, we do want peace, and we also need to claim what is ours and what is rightful and what is true. And yes, Israel is the Jewish homeland, and we still stand for democracy, and we are working our moral compass to the best of human capacity to live as a Jewish homeland and a democratic one at the same time that welcomes in all the nations of the world, that this is a universal house of prayer. So that's my hope and my prayer for us today, is that we can gain comfort and insight and further inspiration and fuel as we step into holding and honoring our own truth, which is, yes, of course, Jerusalem is our capital. Yes, let's celebrate that. And yes, may the whole world see and celebrate that fact and know that it's a good thing that should, in the end, bring a full and lasting, truly noble peace.